Welcome back. Dramatic and emotional testimony from law enforcement officers during the first hearing on January 6th.
We brought it to you live yesterday here on National Report. Critics say it was political theater. Here's Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell on the hearing.
Senator McConnell, did you watch any of the hearing today?
No, I didn't.
Why not?
I was busy doing work. I serve in the Senate.
He's busy working. He didn't watch it. Joining us now to discuss is Peter King, former Republican congressman from New York, and attorney Rebecca Walser joining us live as well. David Grosso, anchor of Bold TV, joining us here. Thanks so much for all of you for coming on. Congressman, I'll go to you first on this. A lot of people calling it political theater. Why is it being called that?
I think primarily because Nancy Pelosi stacked the committee. She took off a Republican Congressman, Jim Jordan, who would have provided the balances needed. Having said that, I think every Republican should denounce what happened on January 6th. It was terrible. It's indefensible. On the other hand, we also have to look into what was done as far as safety precautions beforehand. And that's why we need a real investigation, not this. This is contrived. And also, I have to say, the theater to me was the Democrats showing the sorrow and anguish of what happened to the cops. When last summer they were calling them stormtroopers, and none of them came forward to defend the cops when they were being hit with bricks and rocks and being killed and being spat on all over the country from one end to the other during the race riots, the Black Lives Matter and Antifa riots of the summer of 2020. So there's total hypocrisy on their side, and that's why I think people are calling it theater. Having said that, we need a real investigation, not what's going on now.
Yeah, Rebecca Walser, there are two Republicans who are serving on this committee, Congressman Adam Kinzinger and Congresswoman Liz Cheney as well. Do you think they could represent the voices of Republicans, the questions that some Republican sitting congressmen and women have about security and safety precaution that would have prevented perhaps the riot on January 6th?
And I think that that's a good point, that we really need an investigation into why Speaker Pelosi refused the additional, troops that were offered by President Trump, and because they were forewarned by the FBI that something could happen. And I agree with Peter that we should definitely denounce all violence of all kinds. But there are certainly a big problem when you juxtapose the fact that we had, Antifa and Black Lives Matter rioting for the entire summer, and it was called, peaceful protest. It was called a lot of things by a lot of people. It certainly wasn't called rioting and looting and all of those things. None of it is right. None of it's correct, no matter who does it, no matter what side it's on. It's all to be condemned. But the falsity that the American people see of this is the fact that we do have two Republicans, Liz Cheney and Adam Kinzinger, on that panel, and yet those are both very vocally anti-Trump Republicans. And we know that Liz Cheney really doesn't have a chance to get reelected in her home district. So she's pretty much on the outs. And so I don't think that this represents the voices of the people that were there, that were basically expressing a certain viewpoint. And so when you put two anti-Trump people on a panel and call them Republicans, they're not going to express the people that were at that location that were saying something was wrong with the election. And that's the problem. And so people aren't going to feel that this is a real investigation with all sides being really represented. And where are all the videos? There are thousands of hours of videos. We see select clips. We don't see the videos where they let people in, where they move the barricades, where they let this happen. And so when people see videos on YouTube and other places that show that, they're wondering what kind of, promulgation or propaganda is this committee. At the end, we're not dumb. We're awake.
All right, David Grosso, your thoughts on it, and what is the end game here for this committee? It is labeled an investigation here, but a lot of Republicans point to they're trying to get to the former president. They're trying to get to Trump with subpoena power. Does that happen?
There's a credibility crisis in this country, and everything that the panel is saying is correct. Like, we try to delegitimize the other side, and what we really want here is to prevent this from ever happening again. And unfortunately, the politicization of this committee by both sides really is undermining its legitimacy. We really should look for keeping our lawmakers safe to do the work of the people, who is us, and really look past partisan squabbles in this investigation. What happened was lamentable and should be condemned, as should all violence should be condemned.
All right. Peter King, Rebecca Walser, David Grosso, thank you very much for being our panelists. We appreciate it.
Thanks, guys. Coming up.